Hi, welcome to the Fatherly Edition, a podcast by Tommaso Maggio alongside with a cavalcade of Daddy. Join us! Hi everyone, welcome back to the Fatherly Edition, a podcast by me, Tommaso Maggio. Today we are with Timothy. Thank you, Timothy, for being with us. Timothy is a career coach and learning designer who lives in several parts of the world, from Vietnam, Singapore, now in Australia. And I have the opportunity to catch up with him a few weeks ago in the L&D community, where he's part of this group dedicated to parents, circle of parents. So, again, welcome here, and can you briefly introduce yourself?
Thank you, Tommaso. It's great to be here with you. And I just want to say hi to those who are listening to the podcast. My name is Tim. As Tommaso has mentioned, I work as a career coach and learning designer in a university. So that's my full-time job. But I'm also a full-time husband and a full-time father. And when I'm not working, I really enjoy spending time outdoors. So now I'm usually bringing my son to the park, and I also run a lot during my free time. It's in a way a way to keep me fit, but also making time for myself. Yep, and it's great to be here, and happy to share with you what it's like being a father, especially over the last 20 months when we have our son, Phil.
Thank you for the brief introduction. And tell me, how you think you have been changing, how much you changed in the last 20 months? There is a different theme. How can you summarize, briefly, a couple of things you notice that still theme, but somehow you difference?
Wow, that's a very, very big question, Tommaso. It's definitely been a breathtaking experience and a journey since I become a father. Definitely it's really hard to summarize or put into words what it's like. I would say that I'm still the same Tim in terms of my personality, what I enjoy doing. But I do think the most significant thing about being a father is a very intense sense of responsibility, which lead to me having to make a decision, right? Whether to be scared and overwhelmed by this new responsibility, or to make a decision to show up every day in this new role as a father, and of course as a husband. And I think it's a constant journey that I have been going through over the last 20 years. So there are, I call it mountains experience, and then valleys, right? And there's just a lot that has happened the last 20 months.
It seems 20 years, but just 20 months, right?
Yeah, but it's definitely life-changing. And I felt like now, as I'm here speaking to you, I feel like I'm in a much better version as compared to, the team before, being a father.
It's wonderful to hear that. So another thing that is good that you say that you take time for care yourself, to take care of yourself. Because one of my next question will be how you balance work and private life with your kid. So one thing you say is that you decide to start running. Maybe you run before, maybe you run more now. So, but Like you find the time anyway to keep yourself somehow safe, healthy. So even 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's a very good point that you bring up. I think being a father means I don't have a lot of time for myself, right? And as a working parent, I think definitely it's harder because you have a job and you have responsibilities at home, and then with other commitment that we have. And so I went through a process of reflecting and thinking about what's most important to me. So, for example, I used to play ultimate frisbee, and also I used to go surfing in the beach because I love water, and those give me a lot of energy and joy and fill me up a lot. But since becoming a dad, it's just impossible, right, to take 2 or 3 hours just out of your normal day to go and play, especially in the first few months when we have our son. And so I have to rethink about, okay, since I can't do that, what else can I do that fill me up? And running is just a very simple sport, right? Put on your shoes and then you can do it anytime, anywhere. And that's how I started. And then along the way, I got a bit more competitive. So I got a coach and I have my training. Yeah, I have a training plan. And I've been going for, some races. And again, this is just another way of me wanting to still pursue something that's challenging, that's difficult, and while, maintaining my health and fitness so that I can serve my family and I can serve other people.
Fantastic. Yes. I was discussing with the other father, and what we say is, again, so we really need to keep in mind that to keep our family together, we need to keep ourselves together. So we really need to find time for the self. If not, it's like an airplane going down. If you don't put the mask first, you cannot help anybody else. They're the same. So you need to find your own spot. That can be 1 minute a day, 10 minutes in a week, whatever, or you run, somebody else maybe go for a stroll. So but it's important to find your own way. And you think this idea of, not the idea, sorry, this, I was with one question in mind and another pop up. So I want to ask, the fact that your case is particularly interesting for me because I can relate somehow because both are living us expat life. So the way that we move from our country, living with another, and then having children in a different culture. So the way you do parent today is something that has to do with how you grew up with your own parents. You see some common point, common traits that you can reflect and say, okay, I do these things with my son because my parents did the same, or I still remember this, somehow works for me.
Yeah, I think because my cultural heritage is Vietnamese, right? And I think for Vietnamese, family togetherness is very important. And I think another aspect is respect for the elderly is very important. And definitely, so for me, as a father, I want my son to be close to the grandparents. And I think it's also something that would help my son connect better with the Vietnamese culture and the language, right? So interestingly, I also observed a couple of kids whose parents also speak English. And the moment they know that this parent can speak English and also the other language, but they would always speak to the parent in English. And so in a way, connecting the children to the grandparents it's kind of like a hack of pushing them to speak more of the native language. So that's something that we try to keep, which is the value of being close to family. And then because I've been living so-called overseas or away from where I was born for 15 years, and I think I have embraced and learned or incorporate new mindset and new ways of life and ways of being into my parenting. So an example is, I think being in Australia, there's just abundance of nature. And so I always enjoy bringing my son out for an adventure, whether cycling or exploring the park, or, when summer comes, I'll definitely bring him to the beach, and I want him to be close to nature. So that's something, again, I pick up, in Australia where I live right now. Yeah. And I felt like at the moment, I don't have a fixated approach. I prefer experimenting and then see what's working. And sometimes we try something and it's not working, right? And that's okay. And
you are a learning designer by background. Of course, you apply the same in your life.
Yes,
better.
That's very much.
Yeah. That's a good thing. And since you live for many years in those 3 countries, you see any different way of how the father role is being viewed in Vietnam or Singapore or in Australia?
Wow,
Slightly.
that's...
it's a broad question, of course. Yeah, from your perspective, what do you notice?
It's a bit hard to generalize, right? And
in fact, I ask just your own personal.
Interestingly, I think especially in the Vietnamese culture, I think the father role is somewhat distant from the children. So in the Vietnamese culture, or typically a lot of Asian culture, the traditional way is that the man is highly regarded in the family, especially the father, right? With, traditionally he's the breadwinner, so he bring back, the money and provides for the family, and then the wife would then stay at home, take care of the family, right? But then there's somewhat quite a distance between the father and the children. Maybe because the father already quite tired coming home, or, I don't know what, but maybe between the father and the son, there's the expectation is there must be a lot of respect and reverence between the father and son, right? Whereby I feel in the Western world, the gap is somewhat,
less formality. Maybe we can say less formality. Yeah.
Yes, and there's a lot more involvement in terms of the father teaching, nurturing, guiding, coaching the son. Again, every family is different,
of course.
But at least from living here for a few years, I can see that at least from my circle, the fathers here are a lot more engaged as compared to where I came from.
Yes.
Again, I can be wrong, because the new generations of fathers, right, seems to be more engaged, more willing to step in and take on, the shared role of parenting.
My question was not just to stereotypes, just to ask you your own direct experience. Now, of course, when you were in Vietnam, you were not a dad at the time. Of course, even your experience and the things you see at the time will be different when you go back now. If you go back now is for holiday with your son, that will be totally different the way you see parenting. I assume I was 10 years ago. Even if you go back to Singapore now, you see it with the different eyes.
Man, I think I want to share this experience. So growing up, I wasn't particularly close to my dad. So even he's still around, but he's somewhat absent or didn't really play significant role in my growing up years. So and I would probably use the word grudges against my dad growing up. But then I think when I was 25, I decided to take a trip with him back to his hometown in the north of Vietnam. So I grew up in the south of Vietnam, and that's for the first time I got to see where he grew up and all the people who were important to him. And one special day, I got to visit my grandmother's tombstone, and on that tombstone was her passing day, right? And that was my father's birthday. So she passed away when giving birth to my dad, and so that reality kind of hit me. And then I realized that growing up, my dad also didn't have a lot of people like family, and I became a bit more, I would say, empathetic towards my dad. And I realized that he has his own journey and he has tried his best. And so that's where I felt like I can let go and start to appreciate him a bit more for who he is. And then I think the second biggest change for me was, as I mentioned, I spent a lot of my time in Singapore during my 20s, and I'm lucky enough to have met many mentors and also fatherly figure, and they invited me back to their home, have a meal with their family, and that's kind of an eye-opening experience for me, because that's for the first time I have a vision of what a healthy and loving family looks like, and what a father can do, in
Can be, yeah,
a family, can be, and that gives me a lot of hope. And then when I have my own family, as much as I'm still a work in progress, but I was very clear about the kind of family I want, and that has been really, really helpful.
Well, thank you for sharing such a personal experience. Of course, I assume that everything you've done in the past, everything happened in the past, is somehow building up your own vision. It's the structure you build the way you are now and the way you want to be, especially you want to be for your son. I assume that now at least what you don't want to do, what you want to avoid. And that's is already something important. You say, okay, maybe I will try to avoid 1, 2, 3. And then the good things to do, there are 1,000, but it's important to have at least some main point that you hit already, and you know what can drive you to do it. Yeah, that's.
Can I share with you one thing I want to do? Yes. So I know that as a father, I want to provide, for my family. I want to protect my family, but at the same time, I want to play with my children. I want to be playful when I'm around them. I want to engage with them. I want to get to their level and involve with them, because that's something I didn't have growing up. And so I want to rewrite the script, and I want to be playful and engaged dad. And even though right now my son is going to daycare 5 days a week, but for the remaining time that we have, usually from 5 to 7 p.m. and also weekends, right? Trying to make the most out of it. And like a few days ago, my wife and I reflected on our time together, and we kind of re-emphasize on the importance of being present when our son is at home. And the first thing we want to do is to keep the phone away, right? And so the moment I pick him up from daycare and come home, the first thing I do is put my phone in my work desk and then go out into the living room and spend time with him. So we try our best to be intentional. And again, we continue to learn and improve, right, as we go.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing even this. It is that it's not just experience, that can be a tips for many others, no? Just move away your phone or whatever. Just try to finish. Other fathers say, they try to finish their task and play around the time they can be with the kids. So they try to not make any promise, but say to commit to something, no? Because when you commit, you show that you are committed to something together, no? And that's what counts. At the end of the day, when they are grown up, they will remember this time more than what you expect. So it must be, as you say, basically quality time. And you don't share all your goal, but I assume one of your goals is bring your son with you at the marathon one day.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I think that will be definitely a goal that I want to. So this sparked another conversation I had with another dad, and it kind of somewhat linked to the struggle I had, particularly in the first 6 months of being a dad. I share this on LinkedIn as well. The first few months was so, there's a honeymoon period where everything was great, right? And I felt like, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready to conquer. I'm ready to be the best dad ever. And then the jaws start to kick in, the crying at night, the sleep deprived, everything started to, yes. And I think I was at that point grieving for the loss of freedom that I used to have. Right. And not a lot of people talk about it, and I felt it very much. And deep down, I just felt like I'm sacrificing, I'm losing myself in order to take care of this being, right, or this newborn baby. And I wasn't sure what I need to do. I felt like I'm kind of slowly dying. At the same time, responsible. Yes, and at the same time, the responsibility is so heavy that I can't just let go.
Exactly.
And then one day I talked to another dad and a mentor, and he just told me that he observed many other parents, and he noticed that those who sacrifice themselves for their children later on in life become very unhappy. And for those who still somewhat figure out a way to invest in themselves and do things that they enjoy, will eventually spill over to their children. What that means is the children later on pick up the hobby or the passion or the things that they like, right? And then join them together. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so that's why, so that's in a way explain why I got into running, why I got into pursuing, something that I'm passionate about, because I realized that only when I invest in myself and when I grow, then I can then pass it down to my son.
Yes, it's basically what we say before. So take time for yourself, take care of yourself. If you don't do this, it's very hard, because you say the responsibility are heavy and heavy, bigger and bigger, and you're still the same person. So you need to manage.
Yeah.
As you say, now you have much more things in your hand, but you need to take this decision pretty quick compared before. Before you can say, okay, we have time tomorrow. No, today with the kids, you have 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes are gold. So you must use it in the maximum way you can. If you need for yourself, keep it. If you need to do something else, do it.
That's right. And I think it takes a bit of a redesign
Of course.
work, right? And I think at the end of the day, it's really about being honest with you and then your spouse about what's important to you, and work together to, sort things out. So I'm very thankful to have a very supportive wife. She's a great mother, and it's such a blessing to to parent together. And I mean, I'm here talking to you, right, as a dad, but I have to give credit to my wife for her sacrifice, for her dedication, and also for her understanding, especially when I told her that I want to start running on a regular basis because it really helped me. And also she support me, and some days that she really have to, wake up early and then spend time with Phil on her own, because we don't have family support here, right? So it's just between the two of us.
Right.
So when I'm out, she would then take up the hard work. But then some days, that's why I bring my son out, right? So that she can have a bit of me time. So again, it's a lot of experimentation and trying different things. Yeah, and every time we're able to figure out their own way, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. We do the fatherly edition because we cannot do the fatherly edition if we were without our wife, our partner. So we're lucky enough that somebody pick up us, and then we have a good life because we have them, and lucky enough we have even our children. So, but thanks to the mom. So of course they are on top of everything and behind everything, whatever we can say.
Yeah,
they know. We don't mention as men that much, but the inner force of us actually are they and them pushing us. So do you have any final suggestion for the new dads, or somebody is about to be a daddy? Something you want to say?
and I think becoming a father is definitely the biggest life event and the beginning of an amazing journey. There's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of sacrifice, but it's worth it. And if I have one thing to say to the new dad, I would say embrace the journey, be open to learning, open to reinventing yourself. And being a father would definitely push you to become a better person if you choose to. And so choose wisely, right? And choose to show up.
Thank you for sharing with us your experience, very intimate experience, and I'm sure many of us can rely on some of those experience. And it's good because most of the things you pick up are not things that we usually have a chat, no? Especially as a man, usually our chat is about business, how your business works. But we decide to bring on public private life. And then I appreciate you for sharing such a very personal point of view with us. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tommaso. I think you are doing a wonderful work, right, in making space and time for fathers to reflect, to share, to come together, and to have a voice, right? I love that vision, and keep going. And hope to collab with you in other projects as well.
Thank you. Thank you again. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Hi, thanks for listening, the Fatherly Edition. If you like what you've been hearing, Please follow Tommaso Maggio on LinkedIn or subscribe to the Fatherly Edition podcast on Spotify, Apple, or whatever you gain your podcast.